Hi there, Troy Sminker from Great Day on the Water Guide Service. Welcome to this episode of Fishing and Hunting the North Country. We're almost into the middle of July. We're about 10 days into July here, and today we're doing my favorite way to fish in the summertime. We're on a small but deep natural lake in central Minnesota. A lake with relatively clear water and good weed lines around the lake, and that's what we're doing. We are casting crankbaits on the weed lines. We are working the boat parallel to the weed lines, out a little bit from them, and quartering forward our cast to work kind of over the tops of where the weed line starts, and then down along and through the sparser weeds, and then down along the bottom along the edge of the weed lines. We cover water this way. We're looking for aggressive fish. We got 78-degree water temp on this lake, so fish should be plenty active. As the sun gets higher here and the bite would slow, we're gonna get a little bit of clouds later today and some breeze, so we could keep a bite going all morning here. This lake has largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, walleyes, and northerns on it, so we're hoping to catch all of those, do the grand slam for this lake. We're starting out, we'll try different crankbaits. We'll talk about each of those crankbaits a little bit during the show, show the equipment we're using a little bit, and describe the areas. But basically the weed lines out here, the bulk of it is milfoil, and then the sparser weeds on the edge. In this lake we've got cabbage, coontail, grass, and curly leaf pondweed. And then we also have some areas where we've got harder bottom, like rock or gravel near those weeds. So those are some of the areas we're targeting. We'll talk about them more, but let's get to casting crankbaits along the weed lines in summertime. Hey there. We're out here, as we talked about in the opener, we're casting crankbaits along the deep weed edge. Haven't been at it too long here. Got our first fish. Small walleye, nice eating size walleye actually, so we're going to have this one for lunch. This is, I'm using this is a number 7 jointed shad wrap in the silver shad color, just kind of a minnow pattern. My dad behind the camera has not just a regular number 7 going in kind of a crayfish color, brown and orange color. We're trying a couple colors, and the jointed has a little different action than the regular one. The 7 is the right size for the fish we're targeting and for the depth that we're fishing. The edge of this weed line is in about 9 feet, so we're just moving along it and quartering forward our cast to start out over the top of the weeds a little bit, and as the crankbait starts to dive, we get down and bring it along the edge of the weed line, hoping to catch a little bit of everything today. This lake has largemouth, smallmouth, walleyes, and northerns. So we started off with a walleye, and we'll get back to it here and be back when we get another fish. Hey there, just third cast after that walleye. I got another walleye here. I'll try to swing him. There we go. Pretty similar size to that last one. Another nice 16-inch eater here. Again on that silver shad, number 7 jointed shad wrap. Same deal, got him in about, he's about 9.5, 10 feet right on the bottom edge of that weed line. So off to a nice start for walleyes here. This weed line holds pike and largemouth, and this lake's got smallmouth bass too, so I'm sure we'll encounter some of those as the day goes on here, and we have several spots to try. This spot, we've got 2 points, a point behind us, a point ahead of us in the weeds, and then we're kind of on the inside turn right now, and we pretty much work around those points in that inside turn. We've got cabbage. Well, the majority of the weeds are milfoil up thick, but then the sparser stuff in the edges, there's some cabbage, there's some curly leaf pondweed, and there's also some grass. And then we've got a couple of spots with some scattered rock and gravel too, so it's a good mix of bottom, good mix of weeds, and that really seems to hold fish. And we've got a couple other spots like this we can try on the lake too before we're done. So this one now, that other one, 2 of those will make a lunch for us. Now we'll see if we can get some bigger fish. Okay, I'm just going to show you where we're fishing here. This is the weed line. You can see some lines marked there where I've saved the path we fished this weed line before, and then the red lines, the dotted lines, are the paths we've taken before, kind of marking the weeds and spots in the weeds. And then the red line is where our current path, and we're just following that weed line along, just nicking into it from time to time, using the hummingbird and the minn kota to stay on that weed line. And then The new Tarova has a anchor button on the foot pedal too, so if we contact a fish, at least while we're fighting the fish, we can hit the anchor button, and you can see we're anchored now, and we'll hold in that spot while we're fighting a fish, so we don't have to worry about blowing off the spot while we're fighting the fish. There's the Tarova kicking in to anchor us. But then we'll, after we get a fish in, then we'll sit there and stay anchored and fish that area just a little bit. If it's walleyes, a lot of times they're in small packs, so there could be more than one. Even if there's something specific holding a largemouth there could be a few. Even pike cruising, there could be more than one there. So we'll fish it a little bit, and if nothing, then we'll take the anchor, push the anchor button, take the anchor off, put the continuous back on, and get back to going with the trolling motor to keep working that weed line. It's a good 1-2 combination, that Humminbird and Minn Kota together. Easy for us to stay on the fish. Nice added feature having that anchor button on the foot pedal, especially a casting technique like this. We like to use the foot pedal to steer to keep our hands free for casting, and this way we can still pop that anchor button if we want to stop in a spot, either to land a fish or to fish an area a little more thoroughly. So we'll get back to it. Hey there. We just released a smaller bass, and now we got a little bit bigger largemouth here. I got a smaller one on the regular Shad Rap. I got a little bit bigger one here on the jointed. Still working that deep weed edge. There we go. I could see the hooks were away from the lips, so I grabbed him. If the hooks are out by the face, net them with a crankbait with all those treble hooks. But I could see they were far enough away I could grab him. So nice, about a 16, 17 inch largemouth there. We're still on the same baits because we're catching fish on them. I'm still using that jointed number 7 Shad Rap in the silver shad color. And nice largemouth there. So we put walleyes and largemouth in the boat here so far. We'll get him back and go get some more. They're biting. All right, my dad got one here. Largemouth came up and hit it right by the boat. I think we can swing him probably. A little smaller largemouth there, but he came up and hammered that crankbait right next to the boat. Always have, we were talking about before, always have a needle nose pliers handy with these, and since that one was up in the top and you could lip it, we didn't use the net. But if they got a face full of crankbaits, they come up and T-bone one, then good idea to net the fish. We'll show it here in a minute, a good net for that. There we go. Let him go. We're going to hold up that landing net and show a good landing net to use in the summertime here and to use with crankbaits. This is the Frable Conservation Series net. It's got, you can see it's got a deep hoop in it, and it's got kind of a flat part at the bottom there to cradle the fish, so the fish doesn't want to roll quite as much and get beat up and twisted up in the net. The net is coated so hooks can't get set through the netting like they can in a regular cord, so you can get those treble hooks out of there better, and the holes are small enough. Unless you get really tiny hook, you don't got to worry about the hook going all the way through and getting multiple hook points of a treble hook into the net. So a good one to use. This one's got the feature, the twist extension handle that extends the handle out longer, and you got to go to the end of the, well, we'll show that later, I guess. All right, let's get back to it. All right, my dad literally just cast it back out there and took about 2 cranks of the handle, and he's got another, we know it's a bass. It jumped once already. Another bass hammered that. Gonna see how he's hooked, if we need to net him, or yeah, that one's got a face full of hooks, so we're gonna net that one just to be safe. right, so the two tools of the trade when fishing crankbaits, that net, because he had hooks all over his face, he got hooked by both of them, and then a needle nose pliers. Gives you a little more torque if that fish is hooked well to pop that hook out, but it also keeps your fingers back and your hand back away from the hooks a little bit in case that fish would flop. Then well, good way to end a day fishing is to wind up with a hook in your hand that you can't get out. So using that a little bit longer handled needle nose pliers there will prevent that from happening. But you got to be careful. So if they flop a little bit, they can put the hook back in there.
That they can. And he did.
Yeah, just into the side there a little bit. Nice fish though. That's a nice solid 17.5, 18-inch largemouth there. So that's 3 fish in about 4 minutes here. So the bass are starting to pick up a little bit. So we'll get back to it here and see if we can get some more. Hey there, still working the same area of the weed line. We've got some walleye, some largemouth. We got another walleye here. Try to swing him. Not good enough, so another nice eating size walleye there. Still we're catching fish on this. Haven't really picked up a bait pattern yet. We're catching them on this number 7 jointed shad wrap and on that regular shad wrap. And both number 7 size though is the pattern. That's got the right size and the right depth, and on the silver shad pattern as well as that kind of orange crawdad pattern. So another nice fish, nice eating size walleye there. We'll get back to it and see if we can catch some more. Choices. This one was a good one today. Caught quite a few fish. This is the jointed number 7 shad wrap in the silver shad color. I was using that one. My dad was using this one. This is a Berkeley flicker shad number 7 in their orange, I think they call it orange shad color. Green, a green and white like this, or a fire tiger is real good too, especially when we're filming on the, or fishing on the weeds. That looks like a perch. This looks like a crayfish. This looks like a minnow. I was using bait casting here. This is just a medium action bait cast rod. It's a Legend tournament from St. Croix with an Abu Garcia winch. That's a slow speed reel on it, 10-pound test fire line, and then just a crankbait snap, so we can switch crankbaits. My dad was using a spinning rod, medium action again, or medium power. Both of these are kind of a moderate, softer action, so they bend a little so the fish can inhale the bait. And he was using 10-pound test Berkeley Nanofill on there on the spinning reel, and again to a crankbait snap and then onto the crankbait. Got a box here. These are all different colors you can choose from, but I kind of keep them organized by style. These are the number 7 size shads and flicker shads, jointed and regular. All these will dive to like 6 to 9 feet. And that's what we were using today. The main combination today, or the main thing that was similar between everything we were catching fish on, is it was this number 7 size. The color wasn't as big a deal. Jointed versus not jointed wasn't as big a deal, but some days you have to dial it in more and get very specific. Today we just needed that 7 size. That'll be some good tips there for you for fishing crankbaits out along the weeds. The dad here just had a nice walleye, hammer it right at the boat. We're going to put a net under this one. A little bit bigger walleye here. We got one hook in the net, one hook in the fish. A tip while he's doing this, always get the one out of the fish first. You can take care of the net later, but fish flopping around can get hooks into the net to even worse. So always take it out of the fish first. There, and then we can get it out of the net later.
That's a nice.
Yeah, put a board on that one.
$18 1/4.
18 1/4, another nice fish. We're gonna have that's gonna be the last walleye we keep, but we're gonna have a nice fish fry for lunch. And more of the walleyes are gonna go back along with all the bass that are going back here. So Good job. That one, we've had, well, we've caught 5 walleyes now, and 3 of them have followed it up and hit it right at the boat. Walleyes and northerns are famous for that with crankbaits. They'll follow them, and then when the bait starts coming up from its deepest part of its dive, coming back up towards the boat, then a lot of times they'll hit it because of the change of direction, or they'll spot the boat and hit it because it's now or never. So always fish that bait all the way back to the boat, that crankbait. Don't give up on it because it's getting close, and always be ready right up until you lift it out of the water.
Yep, this one hit it real close to the boat.
Yeah, if you're not paying attention.
Kind of surprises you.
Yeah, so the bass are going to hit it out at the end of the cast into the weeds a little more, so, and that's how it's been so far today. So well, we've got 2 of the 4 fish for the Grand Slam on this lake. We've got largemouth and walleyes, quite a few of each, and that's fine. We'll keep catching those, but we're still hoping maybe here to put a smallmouth in the boat or a pike or 2 also. All right, my dad had another walleye follow up and hit it right at the boat here. I'll get the net on this one too. He's not hooked very well. There you go. Same thing, followed it right up to the boat, hammered it. So I anchored here while we fight it. You can probably see in here the wind's picking up a little bit from this morning. We had, during low sunlight this morning, we didn't have much wind, but that was okay. Now the sun's getting a little higher, but we're getting some wind, and the pan out here, but we got some cloud cover moving in too. So we had storms last night, and supposed to have kind of a hot, humid morning after the storms here a little bit. It's not too humid, but then that breeze is going to come up west and even turn around northwest, and a little bit of a cold front coming in. Those storms are out ahead of that, but a little bit of a cold front coming in only in the 70s tomorrow. So get a little bite going here maybe as that weather changes a little bit on us. We're coming off of 3 really hot, humid days, storms 2 of the nights, and now cold front coming in.
21 1/4.
All right, that one's we're gonna get a still picture of that one, and then that one's gonna go back. We don't need any more fish to eat, but especially not one that size. So get a still picture, get that back, and we'll get back to it here. I got walleyes and largemouth so far hitting these crankbaits along the weed line. Hey there, got this one jumped, so we know this one's not a walleye, it's a bass. Hold of him. Not a real big one, but boy did he hit that crankbait. Got both hooks into him. Got that set. The first one wasn't in too good, but this one's in better. There we go. Alright, so still stacking up the largemouth and the walleyes here. We're still on that same original weed line that we started out on. We got 2 points and a pocket in between, a little bit of sparse weeds along the thicker milfoil, and then a little bit of rock and gravel in that pocket. And it's got fish all along here, so we'll keep at it. Hey there. Still working that weed line, and we got a nice pike here. I'm gonna have you hand me I'm gonna step in here and get the net. He's got a face full of hooks, plus he's got his original mouth full of teeth too, so. There we go. Alright. Ooh, he ate that lure. Holy cow. He did. I'm gonna try to show you this on the camera if I can. That needs you to come up here. I can't move it. The bait is all the way through, and the back hook of the bait is out his gill and hooked in the net. You can look in there and see he just inhaled that bait. Let's see if I can get this out here without hurting him too much. Yeah, inhaled that thing. I think what we're gonna do, I'm gonna get him back in the water. We're just gonna cut that hook off. that bait forward through without trying to bring that hook through. There we go. Now, seeing a lot of blood. Most of that blood is mine. He got my finger pretty good. A little bit is his. We'll see here how he is, but get him back. But that's our first pike of the day. Yeah, he's got it. All right, so now largemouth. We got 3/4 of the Grand Slam out here. Largemouth walleyes and a pike. We'll keep at it here and see if we can get a smallmouth yet. All right, my dad, another walleye. Hit him right by the boat here. That one's hooked up pretty good. I think you can barely swing him in. He's got both hooks in there.
Yep.
Nice 16-incher there. Drilled that number 7 flicker shad in a kind of orange, it's called the orange shad color, a little bit of a crayfish look.
He got himself hooked real good.
Yeah, he wanted that. All but 2 of the walleyes have followed it right up to the boat and then hit as it's coming up. We talked about that earlier. That's pretty common. That pike did the same thing. A couple of the walleyes and then have been out at the end of the cast, and the bass have all been out at the end of the cast. There. All right, he's gonna go home for supper. He's gonna go home for supper.
Gonna take him home.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, he was ready to go.
Yeah, yeah. You probably noticed we're keeping the smaller walleyes, these 15, 16, I had a 14 and a half in there up till we got that 18, and then throwing bigger ones back. That's sometimes kind of flies in the face of what people, what seems like it makes sense, but tons of those smaller walleyes in these lakes. Natural reproduction isn't super successful in these stocked prairie lakes, but still we like to throw those breeding females, those fish from say 19 to 23, 24, and I don't like keeping stuff bigger than that either, even though those bigger older fish probably aren't breeding anymore. We pretty much don't keep anything over 19, and those 14 and a half, 15, 16, 17, those are perfect walleyes for eating. So nice job there, Dan. All right, Dad's got another walleye here. Another nice, what, a 16-incher there. Hammered that crankbait, folded it up to the boat again. Hit it up close.
Every one of them so far has done that.
And he T-boned that. Got both hooks in there. So good job, Dad. We got all the fish we need to eat today, so we're gonna put that one back and we'll get back to it. We'll be back when we get another one. The wind's kicking up here. So hold it up here and show them one more time. I think I'm gonna get a still picture of that for an article too, and then we will let him go. All right, my dad's got, I think, a pretty nice bass here. We heard it jump once. Hear that wind's picking up a little bit. Yeah, what we got there? Yeah, bass with some weeds too.
Yeah.
So, got the boat anchored here. What do you think? Can you grab him with those hooks? No, grab the fish first so he doesn't flop out of there. Yeah.
He hadn't hooked too bad.
Yeah, that's a nice solid 16 and a half inch bass there.
Yeah.
And he was saying, Dad was saying when he caught it there that it was out at the end of the cast a little bit more. We didn't follow it up to the boat to hit it like the walleyes, and that's more typical. The bass are hiding in some weeds out there, more of an ambush predator, and you brought that bait right over the top of him and he let it have it. So we're gonna get him back here and see if we can get some more. But having a real good day here, mostly walleyes.
You know, like I say, this one wasn't like a walleye. He hit it right out, about 2 cranks and he hit it. Not like the walleye that was coming in, hitting it by the boat all the time.
Okay, we'll get the hooks out, get them back, and see if we can get some more here. Hey, good day out on the water here. Fishing crankbaits over the weeds, a great summertime pattern on any kind of natural lake. A lot of bait fish. We saw minnows in the weeds. There were perch and sunfish and crappies following our baits up. So lots of food there, and walleyes, largemouth. We didn't get a smallmouth today. There are smallmouth in this lake. We didn't get one, but I'm sure they were there. Northern. Today it was, and different days are different. Today the walleyes were really on the chew and we were catching so many of them. We only caught a handful of bass and only 1 northern. Other days it'll be the largemouth or it'll be the northerns that are the dominant species, but you got a chance to catch all of them any given day in different amounts on different days by working those crankbaits over the edges of those weeds, over the tops of those sparser weeds down at the bottom of the weed edge and then along that weed edge. So we're gonna head in. We're gonna have some walleye for supper since we got some nice walleyes. Thanks for watching this episode. Good luck, and I'll see you out there somewhere.